Subscribe to Bloody Monday and watch chilling horror stories almost every week. Don't forget to press the bell icon.
Steve, who lived in America, was always fond of visiting the circus to watch the Joker perform its tricks, but a horrific incident happened with him when he was about 13 years old, and since then, even looking at a Joker's picture sends shivers down his spine. One night, Steve was returning home after celebrating the Halloween's night with his friends. He was about to reach his home when he saw a man dressed in the Joker's costume. The Joker stared at Steve and called him. Steve was very excited to see the Joker and quickly went to him. The Joker first shook hands with Steve and then he snapped his fingers through his left ear. Suddenly, a candy appeared in the Joker's hand, which he gave to Steve. Steve was rejoiced seeing the trick. He thanked the Joker and started walking away. However, the Joker stopped him and stared him down with his vicious eyes. Steve could sense the tension around, and seeing his red, scary eyes, he started panicking. The Joker gave him a pack of cards and asked him to choose any one card from it. Steve hesitantly picked a card. It was Jack of Diamonds. Steve put the card back in the deck and shuffled it before handing it back to the Joker. The Joker took out a card from the pack and put it in his own pocket. The Joker snapped again, and the card was now in Steve's pocket. When Steve saw the card, he was scared to death. It was the Joker card, and the Joker's image in the card was shedding blood from his eyes. A startled Steve threw the card away. As he looked up, the Joker was also shedding blood from his eyes. Steve ran away with all his might, but when he looked back, the Joker was standing right behind him. The Joker pulled out a knife from his coat. Steve took the Joker's stick and summoned up all his strength to hit him on the leg. He started running again, but the Joker kept following him with a limp and an evil laughter. Steve couldn't understand what was happening. The faster he ran, the closer the Joker came to him with his knife. As soon as Steve turned to the lane towards his house, he saw the same Joker standing in front of him. Steve couldn't believe his eyes. Then he turned back and saw the same Joker coming from behind. Steve was winded out with all the running and started feeling dizzy. Steve lied unconscious, only to wake up in the hospital the next morning. It was a miracle that he survived such a major accident. But that encounter with the Joker scared him for life. Until this day, he has nightmares of that Joker running to him with the knife.
Did you ever visit the circus in your childhood? Forcing our parents to take us to the circus in order to watch the amazing acrobats perform their stunts was always great fun. But what if the clowns that made us laugh in the circus became our life's worst nightmare? Today's story is based on the true story of the popular Hollywood film, It. The year was 1980. In America, many small kids had disappeared within a span of a few weeks. Their parents were completely clueless about where to look for their lost kids. While the news of disappearing kids was still fresh, another incident took place in Boston where Peter's 7-year-old younger brother, Jerry, disappeared suddenly. Just a while back, Jerry was in Peter's room, fighting with him over a pen when Peter scolded him and sent him out. It was raining heavily outside. Jerry was fuming with anger as he wore his yellow raincoat and took his cycle for a ride. Due to the heavy rain, the road was completely deserted. While Jerry was cycling, he saw a red balloon lying on the road. Jerry, in all his innocence, got off his bicycle to take the balloon. But as he approached the balloon, it kept floating away from him. Soon, the balloon came near a tunnel and floated into it. Disappointed, Jerry turned and started walking towards his cycle when he heard someone call his name.
Jerry! Jerry, Jerry!
He turned back to find a clown in the tunnel who was offering him the balloon with a smile. Jerry sat down by the tunnel and started talking to him. Suddenly, the clown smiled viciously and sucked Jerry inside the tunnel within a blink of an eye. Back home, Peter got worried when Jerry didn't return for a long time. He took his cycle and went out in search of his brother in the heavy rain. At some distance, he came across Jerry's cycle. Peter was seriously concerned and started looking for Jerry everywhere. Suddenly, Peter spotted the tunnel where he found a part of Jerry's yellow raincoat. Peter peeped into the tunnel but couldn't see or find anything. He was now sure that Jerry was in some big trouble. He rushed to his friends to call for help. Peter called to Holly and Sam. Both of them were amused to see him at this hour of the night. Peter couldn't resist, and he burst into tears when he told them everything that happened with Jerry. 3 of them decided to leave immediately in the direction of the main city to look for Jerry. Peter took them to that same tunnel, but this time he found a few more people at that location. A lady was there with her husband, and she was weeping on his shoulder. They got to know that even the couple's kid had disappeared suddenly that night. By the end of the night, many missing kids' news was running on TV. Next morning, Peter, Holly, and Sam again went out in search for Jerry without telling anyone. A path in the jungle led directly to the tunnel. The 3 of them took to the path to enter the tunnel and found it to be completely dark with a weird smell coming from it. When Sam moved forward, he heard a crackling sound. He looked down and screamed out of fear. There were bones scattered and blood was flowing along with the water of the drain around the bones. In the same flowing water, they found one of Sam's shoes floating by, and Peter was sure that his brother was trapped in the tunnel somewhere. They somehow gathered the courage to move forward. As they were going forward, they heard a loud laughter of a clown, and the torch that they were carrying switched off. Sam took out a candle from his bag and lit it up. As soon as the candle was lit, they saw a very scary clown right in front of them who blew off the candle. All the 3 friends screamed and ran straight out of the tunnel. They didn't understand what had just happened with them and who was that clown. All they knew was that something was wrong in the tunnel. They decided to go back in the tunnel tomorrow to investigate it with full preparation. Peter, Holly, and Sam went to the police and told them everything about the incident. The policeman agreed to accompany them in the tunnel to investigate further. When they reached the tunnel with the policeman, they didn't find anything unusual about the place. Neither there were any bones nor any blood flowing in the water, and nor were there any weird sounds or smells. They all went further ahead in the tunnel, but didn't find anything in there. The policeman thought that the kids were trying to pull a prank on him, as he scolded them before leaving the place. The 3 friends were now alone in the tunnel, but they were sure that Jerry was still trapped somewhere in the tunnel. Slowly, they started walking further, deeper into the tunnel, and that's when they again started to hear the clown laughing. After going further ahead, they started seeing the bones, the blood in the water, and all the unusual things. That's when Sam noticed someone's leg fluttering in a corner. When he went near the body, he was left stunned. The legs were on a headless body that was fluttering incessantly. He heard someone call his name from behind. "Hello, Sam." The moment Sam turned back, he found the same scary clown that he had seen last night. Peter and Holly heard a loud scream, and when they looked towards Sam, they found his body being dragged at a great speed towards another tunnel in the drain. Suddenly, Peter saw his brother, Jerry, running through another tunnel. He ran behind him while Holly went after Sam. Now all 3 friends were separated and were on their own. Peter found Jerry standing at a corner, smiling at him. As soon as Peter came close to him, Jerry's face changed. His teeth became pointy, and soon he turned into a huge, scary clown. Outside the tunnel, the policeman's car won't start, and he suddenly heard a loud scream from Peter. He ran inside the tunnel, and as he went in deeper, he found all the bones and the blood in the water. The clown dragged Peter to a place in the tunnel where all the other kids were trapped. The bodies were placed in the shape of a mountain, and Jerry's body was floating on the top of it. Sam was also lying there, unconscious. Peter was furious to see all this, and he shouted at the clown angrily. The clown hit Peter and threw him away and told him that he takes away the lives of kids to grow stronger and increases his lifespan. He comes back every 27 years and eats up all the kids. He told them that he'll start with Peter, and then eat Sam, and then will go on to eat his brother Jerry. The clown had just grabbed Peter in his teeth when Holly came and threw a fire torch on him from the back. He left Peter, but he twisted his neck, stared at Holly, and came running after her. He grabbed Holly's neck with both his hands, but she used another fire torch to hit him on his face. The clown's face started to burn, and he ran towards a well and jumped inside it. Soon, the policeman reached there and was shocked to see all the kids. Peter, Sam, and Holly all laid unconscious. All the kids were taken out of there and taken to a hospital. A few kids who had been missing since months fell victim to the clown's intentions. But a lot of kids were rescued safely because of Peter, Holly, and Sam's courage and bravery. Since that day, no other kid has disappeared from the town, and nobody ever spotted the clown. But 27 years later, the clown returns again. Subscribe to Bloody Monday Horror Stories to hear more such spine-chilling stories. Don't forget to press the bell icon.